Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Inuit, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Brent McIntyre, and I'll be chairing the hearing this morning. With me on the panel, zooming in, is Harvey Diamond and Michelle Duncan. Our assessor for today's hearing is Darren Ducharme, and our administrative personnel is Belham Rojo. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along in the City of Winnipeg's Border Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 6 on our docket today. Ms. Rojo, please affirm the assessors and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Darren Ducharme.
And you affirm the evidence to represent at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
And you affirm the evidence to represent at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first item on the docket today is 1940 Main Street. And are there any preliminary issues either party on this property?
No.
None?
No.
Okay, Darren, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The file number is 23-348. The roll number is 110-305-13000. The address is 1940 Main Street. For the roll year 2024, with a reference to April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value, $110,000 for the residential stream, $693,000 for the commercial stream, for a total of $803,000. The parcel use is a CMU, a commercial multi-use. Zoning is C2. There's a leasable area of 4,639 square feet. Recommendation is to reduce the 2024 assessed value from $803,000 to $599,000. After further review, we have reduced the rent for the retail stream. We have removed the value that was attributed to the basement, and we are in agreement with the applicant's request of applying a 15% vacancy rate for the retail stream.
So do you want to repeat that recommendation a little slower so I can write it down?
Absolutely. We're recommending a value of $599,000. We've reduced the rent on the retail stream. Sorry, I didn't write that down. That is. Yeah, I don't even have a blended amount. I could go over the details further for the retail stream if you wish, because there's different premises. We've removed the value that we had attributed to the basement, and we've applied a 15% vacancy rate on the retail stream.
And Trevor, were you aware of this recommendation?
No, not yet. So I'm just trying to go through the details here quickly. Remove basements.
I could, if
I
it
don't know what the rent was reduced to.
yeah. So there's different premises in this for this property. If you look at, if I can get it maybe to skip to page 6, I guess, where I have the income stream. I can go through my changes there.
That would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, so page 6 of my brief. If you look at PID 9565, there's 1,437 square feet, and I've changed the rent from 1584 to 1362. That gives a potential rent of $19,572. The next premise ID 9566 has 1,664 square feet. Reduce the rent from $11.32 per square foot to $9.73 per square foot, giving a potential rent of $16,191. The premise ID 9567 at 925 square feet. We changed the rent from $16.34 to $14.04, which has changed the potential rent on that from $15,115 to $12,987. And that gives a total potential rent of from $58,000 to $48,750. So the blended rent is of those premises is $12.11, if my math is right. We've removed the value of the premise 34613.
The basement.
Yes.
And so your total potential rent is now $48,750.
Yes. And the leasable area we have is 4,026.
Do the panel members have all of that?
I have it.
Michelle, I think you're muted.
Yes, I do. Thank you.
There you go. Thanks. Now, Trevor, back to you.
Right. Well, I certainly appreciate the city having a look at that and making those changes. And I think we're certainly moving in the right direction. The rent would be my only quibble, and I have particularly good comparables for this. So I'll make my presentation relatively quickly.
Okay, well, the panel members, Michelle, do you have any questions of this?
No questions.
Harvey?
I don't either. I think it's very straightforward. Thank you.
So just to confirm again, Darren, your class code 60T is now 599. Darren,
Yeah, I'm just confirming. Yeah, it's 599.
so that's class code 60.
Class code 6599. Yes.
And class code 10 is still 110.
Yes.
Since there's no other questions, Trevor, I guess you can start your presentation.
Sorry, I do have just a couple of very quick questions.
Okay, sure.
So for the two properties that I'm representing here today, given workload, I'm assuming you didn't have opportunity to inspect them.
No.
Okay, that's certainly understandable. The comparables that first of all, again, thank you for the recommendation and making those changes. It certainly brings the property closer to where we would see it lying in the market. Looking at page 7 and the comparables here, and I don't want to go over this in any great detail here, but none of these properties would be located in that same area as the subject, right? That North Main area. We're looking at St. Boniface and St. Vital, and then across from the Health Sciences Center.
That's correct. My focus was on the parcel use code. These are all CMU properties, and the buildings are very similar in terms to the subject. They're very similar in setup in terms to the subject.
Okay. And looking at comparability, so these would be street front properties. The one that would be closest, in my estimation, as it does have a second floor residential, would be that number 3, 764 Notre Dame Avenue. Would that be fair?
That would be, they all have, except for 539, they all do have on the second floor residential. 188-A and 764 are the two that have residential above. And those are the two that I would consider the most comparable. 764 Notre Dame and 188-A.
Okay.
Subject.
And 188 is located on the corner of Taché and St. Mary's in St. Boniface.
Correct.
Okay, and just looking at the high rent there, 681 St. Mary's Road, that property was owner occupied at the time of this particular lease, correct?
I wasn't aware of that, to be honest.
Okay. It's occupied by a financial institution and was used for office. Those are all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey, any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you, Mr. McIntyre.
So both parties agree to the class code 10 value, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe.
So my only question is the mailer on the class code 10 shows a rent of $1,200, yet Darren, you're at $975 per month.
I believe that sounds familiar to this one. Yes. 975, yes.
Okay, that was my only question.
975.33.
Okay, Trevor, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So subject property we're looking at is 1940 Main Street. To just orient us to start with, if you look at my page number 8, you can see the aerial map of the property, giving you an indication of where it's located on Main Street. In the north end there, towards North Main. The subject property itself, mainly commercial. It has one residential unit on the second floor, as mentioned. We have photos of the property beginning on the cover there. You can see the exterior from the frontage, and further photos begin on page number 4, both front and side. We have a couple of photos of the one remaining tenancy inside. You can see the level of finish in there. Tenant has been there for a while. Improvements are somewhat old and dated. And we have a photo of the vacant unit. We did not have access to the residential unit as the owner was away for a period of time. So I don't have photos of it. We're not disputing the valuation on the residential though, so we'll just leave that at that. Zoning for the property C2 was built in 1945 with an age of 1950. And we had a leasable area of 4,639 square feet. I gather that would change somewhat with the removal of the basement space. So we did not have a basement space in our calculation. So I would keep that in mind in the overall valuation. Generally speaking, looking at the location of the subject property, North Main, looking at the condition of it, if you get a sense of that from the photos. North Main, given the area and economic circumstances, tends to drive lower rental rates. Certainly when the property is in a lower level of condition, such as the subject, that would also contribute to lower rental rates. Moving forward to the valuation itself on page number 11, the subject property was and is operated on a gross lease basis. If we look at the 2020 income and expense, you can see that they brought in a gross income of $32,000 for the subject property over that 2020 year end. There were originally 3 tenants, and their gross rental rates are stated below there: $15.03, $10.02, and $15.57. Now, if you do a quick calculation, the income and expense indicates there were expenses of $44,292. You divide that by the original leased area, it gives you operating expenses of $9.55. You deduct that from the gross rental rates, you get $5.48 for the first tenancy, 57 cents for the second tenancy, and then $6.02 for the final tenancy. So that would be what they would actually net at the end of the day. The first 2 tenants, that being Dobro Food Market and the second tenancy there, expired in 2020 in October and April of 2020, and they vacated at that time, obviously due to COVID and business prospects at that point. And the units have been vacant since that time frame through the valuation date and indeed up to the current day. Moving forward to look at the market for appropriate rental rates, I have 3 that are in the immediate area. And you can see them in the chart at the bottom of the page there, located all on Main Street. First one, 1970 Main, total area of just over 5,500 square feet. Newer property built in 1970, 2016 lease over a 5-year term for $8.50 a square foot. Second property, 1560 Main. This property has on-site parking in front of the units itself, a little over 2,800 square feet. Again, somewhat newer, built in 1962. And we have a much newer lease at 2020 over a 6-year term, leasing for $10.50 net per square foot. Finally, we have 1924 Main Street, a little over 2,000 square feet, 2016 lease at a rate of $11 a square foot. Again, somewhat newer property. Photos of these are on the following page, 2 pages. You can see 1970, 1560 Main with the on-site parking out front of the units themselves. And then finally, 1924 Main Street. 1924 Main Street is actually just immediately south of the subject property across the side street. And that particular property leased for $11 per square foot in that 2016 lease. Now, I would characterize that property as being superior to the subject and in better condition, and would drive higher rental rates. So looking at the market, we've applied a net rental rate of $10.50 a square foot. I believe the comps we have are very indicative of what market in that area would be. Move on to expenses. Certainly the panel members have heard enough with regard to expense allowance and the issues with that. I believe, Mr. McIntyre, I'm happy to cover that again if you feel that some of your panel members would benefit from a quick review of that.
Michelle, do you have any concerns over the expense ratio?
No, not at this time.
Harvey?
No, like everybody else here, we've heard the arguments many times, and I think we're pretty well fixed where we're going to be. So I don't think we need any further question.
I agree.
And I thought that may be the case, so just offering it up. Looking at expenses for the subject property, we're now in agreement on it. I would point out that the property had roughly 80% vacancy as of the valuation date. Indeed, the second floor residential tenant also vacated, so that space was vacant as well. We're not taking issue with the valuation on that, however. Moving forward to capitalization rate for the subject property. Again, we have a slight difference from what the city has applied to the subject property. I believe the city's model based on size is probably going to drive a somewhat lower cap rate than what we would necessarily see in the marketplace. Indeed, there can be more purchasers out there for properties of a certain smaller size. That doesn't necessarily mean that the capitalization rate will drop accordingly. Looking at my cap rate study on page number 16, first we have the discussion of the main commercial brokerages. We have Cushman & Wakefield and CB Richard Ellis, quoting cap rates for the relevant period between 6.5% and 7.25% for non-anchored retail strip malls. These being representative of investment grade retail assets. Now, the subject property is a 1950 aged 4,000 square foot street front retail with second floor residential. This would not fall within those boundaries as an investment grade retail asset that larger investors would look at. So that's simply giving you some background with regard to what sophisticated investors would be looking at for retail capitalization rates for well-located quality assets. Looking at our cap rate study, we have 3 before you there, 1411 Henderson, number 2 being the property at the corner of Stradbrook and Osborne in Osborne Village. and finally 1800 Corridon Avenue. Our cap rates for the three properties are shown in the chart there, between a low of 7% for property located on Corridon Avenue. This property is particularly well located in River Heights, has high-end niche retail tenancies with significant investment in the improvements. That property traded at a 7% cap rate. The high end being 1411 Henderson, well-tenanted property located on North Henderson Highway with national tenancies, and we have a cap rate there at 8.9%. Now, subject property, given its location, given the challenges of tenancy in that area, etc., we've applied a slight increase to an 8% capitalization rate from the 7.35 that the city has used. This gives us a final market value for the commercial area of $420,000. Again, we have some space included in that value that we're unaware was considered basement space. That would indicate that that value would be somewhat high. I won't make that change at this point, but I would certainly ask that the panel keep that in mind in their final decision. So our final reconciliation of values, we have $420,000 for the commercial. We're in agreement on the multifamily, and our final value is $530,000 overall. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much. Darren, do you have any questions?
Yes. So looking at page 11, I'll be brief. Subject property leases, there's a sentence. Second sentence, the subject property 2020 income expense questionnaire indicates the property produced a gross income of $32,000. We go to your A1, then
And that's
looking at the submitted property income and expense questionnaire, we see the check net. Would you, is that correct? Would you agree to that?
I would agree that they checked net. I guess my commentary on that is that this particular owner is new, not necessarily a new Canadian, but English is very far from his first language. We have significant communication problems with him. So the checking of net is not necessarily indicative of whether they're net or not. If you look on my page A3, you can see the you can see that it's not actually net, and it indicates what is included in the gross lease itself, as shown on that chart.
Right. Looking at that, if we take the monthly rents of the two, so there's two commercial streams here, Dogo Food Market and I believe the Dead Man's Hand, I believe. They work out to $36,000 in terms of gross rent. 1,800 is 21,600. 1,200 is 14,400, which is 36,000 gross rents.
Yeah, well, I'm not disputing that. If you did, if you had those tenants for a full year and did that calculation, yes, the number would be higher. Now, as I indicated, the tenants left in April and October, so the 32,000 is what they actually generated for that year. And not if it was misunderstood that was a fully occupied year's income, I do apologize for that. Simply, the 32,000 is what was generated for the property.
Okay. I just have a question about going back again, page 11. There's, under the subject property lease, there's an Alex at 10.02 per square foot. If we go back to A3 of the tenant verification form, you see that Alex is on the second floor. Would you agree? That would be the apartment rent, not looks like a commercial rent.
Yes, I would agree.
And that's all I have for questions.
Thank you very much. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey?
Yes, I have a few. First of all, your page 4, when you show the side of the building on Leela, Mr. Smith, you're cutting
Yes.
off the back premise, aren't you? I see a small section of the brick building behind.
The brick building behind is a separate property, yes.
Well, that property is also part of this property. It's the third lease. It's the third commercial lease.
Yes, we have, sorry, if we don't have a photo of the interior of that particular space, but yes.
And it's a newer building.
If you look at the site description on page 7, it gives you a better indication of what's included there, yes.
I understand. You indicated that COVID caused the food market to close.
That was one of the contributing factors to it, yes.
But in fact, it moved across the street, and we opened in a bigger, newer location on the just south on Leela, right on the other side of Leela. Did it not?
Not immediately. They are open at that spot at this point, yes.
Yeah, and the reason for their move was because the motivation was to get bigger, more modern premises that were right across the street, not because of COVID.
Well, COVID was a contributing factor to them. This is coming from the ownership itself of the property, not of the business. But yes, they do continue to operate, and they are in the same general area, yes.
Okay, sorry, hang on. I have another question, just a minute. Yeah, I'm looking at your leases, and the lease at 1970 Main, the way you have it, is a 5-year term that started in 2016, so it ended in 2021.
That's correct.
And the rent is still in operation, even though today it's 2023. Do you know what the rent is today?
Today's rent would not be relevant to the valuation as of April 1, 2021.
So when does this expire then? If it was 5 years in 2016, it expired in 2021. You know when it expired?
I have that information in my files. I don't specifically state that as the month, etc. There's certain considerations to take place there with regard to putting that information out there. But it does expire in 2021. It was at a rate of $8.50. 5 years have passed. It may be slightly higher than that and more in line with the rent that we're applying to the subject property.
It's quite a big difference in premise. It's a lot larger, and it's only one lease for the whole building, as opposed to 3 commercial leases in one building. Would you agree?
I would agree, yes. That's why we have the 2 other leases in close proximity as well.
Okay, and 1924 Main Street again was a lease that was started in 2016 for 3.5 years. You know if that lease was in effect in 2021? And
no, Mr. Diamond, unfortunately, I don't have the updated lease information for that particular property at that time frame. If I had it, I would provide it in the material that I had.
But that lease would have expired in 2019, would it not have?
Could I ask you to repeat the question, please, Mr.
I
Dunn?
said that lease would have expired in 2019.
Yes, it would have expired in 2019. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, you have no update. Okay, thank you. That answers my questions.
My commentary there would be immediately following that, we then enter the COVID period beginning in roughly March of 2020 with an extreme depression on retail rental rates in the city, given the retail climate. So
I think all of us have heard the COVID arguments over the last several years.
Okay, well, thank you. That completes my questions.
Thank you. I have one question. Trevor, on page 3, you're showing the 2023 assessment in your text. But is this not a 2024 appeal?
it is a 2024 appeal. The 2023 and 2024 assessments are the same. That would be a typo, and yes, it is 2024.
Okay, that was my only question. So that concludes this property.
We do have rebuttal evidence. There's been significant discussion of the, may I proceed with the rebuttal?
Yeah, that's the panel, sorry.
Certainly.
I don't think we have it yet.
I don't have it here, no.
Yeah, so that is in your folder now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we just have to refresh it.
Yes.
And there it is.
1 second. And you should have it in your folder now as well.
Under meeting proceedings or under the in the folder?
It's the folder itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Darren, have you got it?
Yes.
Okay, Trevor, you can proceed with your rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, simply with regard to comparables, it's important to have a good perspective on what's being presented. So there's been significant discussion of the comps that I've provided. This is merely background on what the city has provided. If we look at the city's comparables on page number 7, as I've indicated, many of them are in St. Boniface, St. Patel, 2 of them across from Health Sciences Center. All of the rebuttal does here is give you a quick snapshot of what those comps are. So looking at my page number 2, 188 Taché, right on the corner of St. Boniface, or rather Taché and St. Mary's. The point of providing these is to give you an indication of what the property is, location of it. All of these properties would be significantly better located than the subject. 28 Taché, as you can see, second property, 681 St. Mary's, was owner occupied. It's actually an office use and has traded. I had discussions with the purchaser, and they provided me with the background with regard to the previous owner and tenant. 764 Notre Dame is the best comp the city has, in my opinion rather. It's kitty corner to the Health Sciences Center on the south side. You can see it has second floor residential, main floor street front retail, similar to the subject. Beyond that, we have better located properties in both St. Boniface and St. Patel, as well as newer and better improvements for each of the comps. That's the rebuttal that I wanted the panel to have a quick look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Darren, any questions, comments?
I have no questions. Again, these are all, only comment would be, these are again all the same parcel use code, the same building use type as the subject.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey, no, any
No
questions?
questions, thank you.
And I have no questions, thank you. So that concludes 1940 Main Street. The next property on the docket is 655 Corden Avenue. Any preliminary issues, either party?
Not for me,
No, I do not.
Thank you. Darren, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. The file number is 23-336. The roll number is 120-221-115-000. The address is 655 Corden Avenue for the roll year 2024 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $126,000 for the residential stream, $426,000 for the retail stream, giving a total of $552,000. The parcel use code is a CMU. The zoning is C2. The leasable area is 1,190 square feet. Recommendation is to decrease the 2024 assessed value from $552,000 to $484,000 by reducing the rent on the retail stream to $22 per square foot and by increasing the cap on the retail stream from 5.80% to 6.50%, which is in agreement with the applicant, in terms of the cap rate.
So the rent again is reduced to,
$22 per square foot.
and originally you were at 23.28.
Right, and it was reduced to align with the comparables, the market data.
Do you want to repeat that one more time?
Just to align more with the market data, the $22 per square foot that we have in our brief.
Trevor, were you aware of the recommendation?
No, not till today, but I do appreciate the city having a look at it and making those changes.
So the recommendations were approved a couple of days ago, and that's why.
That's fine. Yeah, not a problem. I understand.
So are you in agreement with the recommendation, Trevor, or not?
No, we still have a dispute over the rent, really, and we'll just keep it focused on that.
Okay, and do you have any questions of Darren?
All right, can I go through I'll just go through my presentation.
Sure. Sorry, it's been a while.
On page 2 of the top photo, we have an overhead photo of the subject property, 635 Corden, which is in the heart of the Corden Avenue biz. It's located between Daly Street and Hugo Street. The bottom photo is a Google Street View of the subject property with the tenant, Mr. Calzone. The top photo is another Google Street View passing the subject property. As we can see, this is a heavy traffic street. Corden Biz is also a good area for foot traffic. And in the bottom photo, we see the back of the building. The exterior of the property overall has been maintained. On page 4 is the subject property, the apartment stream workup. We have a one bedroom suite with a monthly rent of $986.52, giving a potential gross income of $11,838. A vacancy loss of 4.2%. Expenses 44.99%, a cap rate 4.9%, giving a estimated value of $126,000 rounded. Page 5 are the rent comparables for the apartment stream. I'm not going to go into the detail as we are, I believe, in agreement with the value for the apartment stream. Page 6 is the income stream for the restaurant. So the leasable area is 1,190 square feet. Reduced the rent from $23.28 to $22 per square foot, which has changed the potential rent from $27,703 to $26,180. The vacancy loss remains the same at 6%. Expenses remains the same at 3%. Shortfall remains the same at $8 per square foot. The net operating income has changed from 24,689 to 23,300. And we've changed the cap rate from 5.8 to 6.5. This has changed the capitalized value from 425,672 to 358,457, or $358,000 rounded for the restaurant stream, or retail stream. Page 7 are the rent comparables for the commercial stream. Comparable 1 at 120 Osborne, Unit 3, or I should say the comparables, the total other comparables have a mean of 2192 and a median of 2247. Thus the $22 per square foot request. The comparable 1 at 120 Osborne, Unit 3 is similar to the subject in that it's sandwiched between other buildings in the heart of a business zone. And is it a similar tenant, and the front of the building also has brick and is in dining. Comparable 2 at 390 Osborne is similar to the subject, it being a CMU with commercial on the bottom and apartment on the second floor above, and is located in a biz zone as well. Comparable 3 at 2677 Pembina is the same type of tenant as the subject, also with dine-in. Comparable 4 at 2029 Portage is the same tenant as the subject, though it has no room for dine-in. Comparable 5 at 163 Henderson is the same type of tenant as the subject, same type of building, and has dine-in. And comparable 720 Gordon is a restaurant with dine-in similar to the subject, located on the same street as the subject and in close proximity with a similar type building. This would probably be the best comparable of the ones presented. Page 8 is the income value summary for both streams, which I've discussed in detail just previously. Page 9 is our capitalization rates chart. We are in agreement with the applicant. We've increased the rate to 6.5 on the retail stream. Page 10, the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And page 11 through 14 are the subject property 2020 income and expense mailers that were submitted. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trevor, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll confine them to the rental comp. So if we can flip to page number 7 there. So for the first comparable, you have 120 Osborne. That property is between River and Stradbrook on Osborne, correct?
Yes.
And it was newly built in 2003.
Yes.
So the improvements there would be significantly superior to the subject. Would that be fair to say?
That would be a superior, yes, overall.
Yeah. And the tenancies there are generally national. Hold on a second. National covenants, I believe, correct? Or chain.
I believe so. It's not a wrong one, but I believe it might be. I'm not absolutely certain if it's.
TD Bank was a tenant there at one when the property was constructed. Is
this 120 Osborne?
It is 120. Yes.
I can say right now there's a little Pizza Heaven.
Right.
Was a tenant.
No problem. 390 Osborne. Again, that newly built in 2017.
Right.
So it would be superior to the subject in the finishes, etc.
Right.
And so 2017, is that the ice cream?
Yes.
Tenancy. So that
yes.
was Shea Van. Okay.
Yes.
moving on, 2677 Pembina Highway, so that would be in Fort Richmond at Ardmore, Dalhousie, I believe, on the corner of Pembina.
Yes,
And that would be a pizza restaurant,
right.
so a national chain. 2029 Portage Avenue, 2029 Portage Avenue, so older than the other comps, 1977, similar in size, 1290, and this would be takeout pizza at that location, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Santa Lucia
take
Pizza.
off, right,
And the rate there being 1837.
yes,
163 Henderson, this property traded in either late 2018 or early 2019, I believe, and then tenancy was put in. The pizza operation, that's a city and restaurant as well, correct?
it's a restaurant, yeah. Pizzeria restaurant, right,
Eating restaurant, okay.
like local,
And finally, 720 Corridon, as you indicated, is on the Corridon Strip, so that would be the one in the immediate area. And that is a dine-in restaurant as well, correct?
correct,
And it's been renovated significantly in recent times, is that accurate?
not to my knowledge, to be honest, we still have it as with an effective age at 1959, but
Okay.
I might be wrong in terms of the renovation.
Yeah, fair enough. Those are all my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. So Trevor, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So subject property we're dealing with is 655 Corridon Avenue. As already indicated, property is located in what you could call the Corridon Village area. It is an area of high foot traffic, located off of Pembina Highway. Many of the buildings in the area are older. Many of them have received updating over time for newer tenancies. So the subject property is not one of those. It has not had significant updating in quite some time. It is again streetfront retail with the second floor residential. There is no tenant in the second floor residential as of the valuation date. Before the valuation date, after the valuation date, they do not have a tenant in there. Looking at my chart on page number 3, we'll do a little bit of background on the subject. Zone C2 was built in 2 phases, 1950 and 1968. We have a leasable area on the main floor of 1,190 square feet, and then a 1-bedroom suite on the second floor. We're not disputing the valuation of the second floor suite. I would, however, point out some of the photos that we provided. It's not in newer condition, can use some work. Access to it is has some safety concerns, certainly if you look at the photos beginning on page 4 there, but we're not disputing the actual value of the second floor residential portion. Photos of that are shown on pages 6 and 7 as well as 8, giving you the view from the front window of the residential suite. Now, the interior and exterior of the main floor retail are shown on the top of page 4, Mr. Calzone being the tenant, and then the interior on page number 6, This interior, as you can see, is simply a takeout location. The finishes are not new, and the space is considerably chopped up. If you look at the stairs up to the minimal seating at the second level there, etc. Quite a narrow space, as indicated. Now, all of these things have an impact on the rental rate that a property would draw on the market. So let's move forward to the valuation, beginning on page 13. If we look at 2020 income and expense questionnaire, we can see that it was gross income, gross leases. Property produced 39,000 in gross income for 2020. If you deduct the expenses, stated expenses, making an adjustment for property management, bringing it down considerably to $1,500, we would essentially end up with a rough idea of a net rate at $17.90 square feet. $17.90 per square foot, with no deduction for vacancy, etc. As stated, the lease is on a gross lease basis. So we're looking at about $17.90 in place. Now, how does that match up to the marketplace? Well, two things. I'll point you to two properties. We have two that the city has provided on their page number 7, 2029 Portage Avenue, being a takeout pizza place, considerably newer building, generating a net rate of $18.37 a square foot. And then a slightly larger unit on Henderson, 163 Henderson, also being a pizza place, also considerably newer, 1977, and has been updated, generating a net rent of $19.80 a square foot. Flipping back to my brief, what I've done is provide you with comparables on the Corridon strip or in the Corridon area. If you look at pages 14 and 15, I have two different retail malls here, a significant number of national tenancies along with good local tenants as well. The range of rental rates for these properties, property on page 14 is between $15 and $20 per square foot. Range for the property on page 15 is $15 to $20 per square foot. Now, these properties are significantly superior to the subject. You can see the ages of the properties, both the one on page 14 has been significantly renovated in recent times. And this has had the impact is shown on the rental rates there. Again, most of the rents falling between $15 and $18 per square foot. Property on page number 15, again, the majority of the rents falling between $15 and $18 per square foot. Now, if we look at those two centers, they both have significant on-site parking, which is a significant draw for retail tenants, obviously, and does contribute to higher rental rates. So looking at the market, we believe, given the age of the property, given the finish, level of finish of the subject, we believe that a rate of $18 per square foot would be at the high end of the range for the subject, which is probably appropriate given that it is in Corridon Village, so it's not going to draw at the low end of the range. So we've applied $18 per square foot in our valuation. We can move on to my page number 19. At this point, we're in agreement on Vacancy, shortfall amount and capitalization rate at 6.5%, with the only difference being the expense allowance, which we've already covered. So my final market value for the commercial portion of the property is $279,000. And this results in our total overall valuation of $405,000. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Darren, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I guess on page 14, I guess 15, just in regards to the comparables. So we know that subjects located in a popular area known as the Corydon Avenue Biz, a lot of vehicle and foot traffic. For that location, the comparables at 1700 Corydon and 2020 Corydon, would these be in that biz zone, or are they in a biz zone?
Well, we're not referring to whether they're in a biz zone or not. They are not in the immediate Corydon Village area. They are located in in the River Heights and Tuxedo areas. So they're extremely well located and do draw higher rental rates given their location and amenities.
That's, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey, any questions?
No, as Mr. Ducharme has asked the questions and got answers to the questions I would have had. Thank you.
And I had the same question, so that concludes 655 Corydon, and I assume, Trevor, there's no rebuttal?
There is actually a rebuttal.
Okay.
And it's simply for to help the panel frame the information presented by the city.
Well, I don't think we have the rebuttal yet.
Yes,
Oh, yes, we do. Panel members, do you have the rebuttal?
Do you have to refresh to get it?
Yes.
Okay, hang on then.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, Trevor, you can speak to this rebuttal. I guess these are pictures similar to the last property.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's exactly the same intent as the last one. So I'll just run through these quickly. The first one at the top of page 2 being 120 Osborne Street. So as you can see, we have relatively newly constructed building in 2003 in the heart of Osborne Village. Used to have TD Bank in there, now has 3 different national tenancies. So significantly better amenities and draw for national tenants. We look at 390 Osborne at the bottom again, newly constructed, high profile on Osborne Street. 2677 Pembina is a small retail strip center located at a lighted intersection at Bairdmore and Pembina in the Fort Richmond area. 2029 Portage Avenue is a good comp. Bottom of page number 3, as you can see, similar in size and kind of attributes to the city from the exterior. 163 Henderson. On page number 4, you can see the for sale sign in 2018, and then kind of the updated look of it on page 4. It has been improved inside as well, changed from a retail use to a restaurant use, so it's been renovated. And then most importantly, 720 Corydon, which had the $23 rate. If you look at that subject property, so I forgot the age that was shown of it, but it was 1959, perhaps. I'm not seeing it at the moment, but
Might have been 58, yeah.
1959, yeah. So you can see that this has been both updated on the exterior as well as the interior. It's been renovated for restaurant use quite extensively and would be significantly superior to the subject on that basis. That is my rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren, any questions?
I guess my only question is, in regards to the Corridon property, you know, on that renovation? That occurred.
For that particular tenant, I don't. I know that they had another tenant in there before the current one, but it is relatively recent.
That's all I have questions.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. So that concludes 655 Corden Avenue. And I guess, Trevor, that concludes your presentation.
Mr. Chair, I just need clarification on the recommended value.
Oh, okay.
This one has a split assessment. I just need you to confirm what changes you are making.
For Corridon, from the recommendation total was 484,000.
Yeah, and I just need it in the broken down.
Okay. So the retail stream would be now 358,000. And the apartment stream remains at 126,000.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I think we should take a 10-minute break because we've got another series of presentations after this one, right, Belhan?
Yes. So we're going to recess?
So we're going to recess for 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you very much. We'll reconvene the hearing this morning. The next property on the docket is 1856 Bannatyne. And Belhan, can you swear in or affirm Mr. Slaughter?
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Rod Slaughter.
And you affirm the evidence you about to present at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Darren, just to confirm, you're still under oath?
Yes.
Okay, 1856 Bannatyne. Are there any preliminary issues with this property?
Not from my end.
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, Darren, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. File number 23-307. The roll number is 070-902-95000 for the roll year 2024 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of 160,000 for the commercial, 87,000 for the residential, for a total of 247,000. The parcel use is CMCMU. It's zoned in R1, R1M, residential, and the leasable area is 888 square feet. Recommendation is to decrease the 2024 assessed value from 247,000 to 201,000. After further review, we have decreased the retail stream rent per square foot from $16.93 per square foot to $12.22 per square foot.
So the class code 60 now becomes what?
It's $22 per square foot, which gives a change in value from 160 to 114.
Based on the adjusted rent to $12.22,
Yes,
and all the other parameters stay the same.
correct. Yeah.
So Rod, you're aware of this recommendation now?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Mr. Ducharme. I think we'll continue though, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, Darren, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. On page 2, we have on the top photo is an aerial view of the subject property at 1856 Bannatyne. See, it's a good sized lot next to a rail line. It's a 1-story building with commercial in the front and residence in the back. The subject is located between Notre Dame and Templer Avenue. The bottom photo shows the back of the subject property. Page 3, the top photo of Google Street View approaching the subject property on Bannatyne. And in the bottom photo of Google Street View passing the property on Bannatyne. Page 4, the subject property, apartment, income stream rent, we have a 1-bedroom suite with a monthly rent attributed at $774.54 for a potential gross income of $9,294. We have a vacancy loss of 3.2%, expenses at 47.3%, an overall cap rate at 5.45%, giving a capitalized value $86,991 with an estimated rounded value of $87,000. On page 5 are the rent comparables. For the apartment stream, all the comparables are located in the same market region as the subject. Page 6 is the income stream for the retail. The leasable area is 888 square feet. We've adjusted the rent from $16.93 to $12.22, giving a potential rent from $15,034 to $10,851. Vacancy remains the same at 6%. Expenses the same at 3%. Shortfall remains the same at $7 per square foot. The cap rate remains the same at 8.35, giving a capitalized value of $114,028 or an estimated rounded value of $114,000. On page 7 are the rent comparables for the commercial stream. All the comparables, I will admit, it was very difficult to find comparables for this property. In fact, we can find that were very similar. These comparables are superior to the subject. And so how the $12.22 per square foot is a model rent by, we had adjusted the quality. We, for this property, we essentially put it into a different quality tier or level, I guess, if you will. And so the $12.22 is a model rent based on a lower quality adjustment for the property. Page 8, we have our income value summary, which I just discussed. Page 9 is our capitalization rate chart. We have assigned a cap rate of 8.35% to the subject property. We can see from our chart it's above the 80th percentile for all reports, and we believe it's fair. Page 10 in the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And page 11 through 18 are the subject property 2020 income and expense mailers that were submitted. On page 12, we can see it was owner occupied. Page 15, the code questionnaire, they indicated they checked off did not have an impact. And that would conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Rod, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ducharme, you had mentioned your comparisons. You admitted that they were superior. I think 2 or 7-Elevens in different locations. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, I tried to find mom and pop convenience stores. If I had more time, I might have been able to, but I couldn't find anything.
It would have been hard.
Yeah.
And just a quick question. You show on page 9 the broker ranges for capitalization rates, and for multifamily, typically they fall between 5 and 6%, according to the broker studies. Is that correct?
For low rise, about 4, 4.8, 5.6 in that. Yeah, close.
Yeah, well, not including the city of Winnipeg. I'm just talking about Collier CBR.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And the city has applied to this. And just to be clear, this residential unit is just at the rear of the commercial portion.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's been applied a capitalization rate of 5.45.
Right.
Okay. I think that is all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And Harvey.
Yeah, Mr. Ducharme, the only thing I didn't get here was what was your new NOI on the commercial space with your adjustment?
It was for retail, the NOI changed from 13,335 to 9,521.
Thank you.
9,521.
Perfect. Thanks very much. That answers my questions.
Thank you, and I have no questions, so Rod, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I have a little bit of rebuttal evidence as well that I'll just tag on at the end with your permission.
Certainly, Belhan, you can load that and we'll hear Rod's presentation first.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to ask the panel to please turn to page 6. I had a chance to go down and inspect the property a couple weeks ago, meet with the owner. I think the description of the property being poor to fair would be accurate. The property is located along a rail side line in the Brookside area. It has a small convenience store. You can see photos on page 7, or a photo of the small convenience store front, and then the residential unit is at the back. On page 8 shows pictures of the basement area. The city had, I think, appropriately not included the basement in the valuation. I think that's appropriate. It's basically just a storage area. And then page 9, you can see the overhead map. So they have room for one parking stall along the side for the residents. It's on a gravel pad. The store in the front, and then the residence is at the back with a small fenced yard around the back area. So, you know, it really comes down to two differences, Mr. Chairman, or three main differences. And I'll apologize in advance. I had not had the city's brief when we did our presentation, and I think some assumptions were made or errors in our calculations, which I will correct at the end. And that has to do with the cap rates. But in any event, on page 12, we look at a direct comparison approach. Now, we don't feel that's typically the best approach for these type of mixed-use properties, but we do note at the bottom of page 12 that the city has in the past included sales of these types of properties. And the prices that they have range from $77 a foot up to a high of $172 a foot. The caution with these, when we look at it from a sales perspective, is we found that there are times when chattels or equipment can be included in the prices. Now, hopefully, if they go through land titles, that shouldn't be the case, but we have interviewed some who have said that's the case. So we often treat these with a little bit of caution. There's one I'd like to add. We're going to talk about it a little later this morning. A property on Pembina, very a superior property, definitely, but a CMCU type property, and it sold in mid 2019 for $727,000, which based on its gross upper area is $123.51. But again, we feel that the income approach is the best approach to use. We just simply look at these sales in the end as kind of a test. So really the difference is, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, there's three. Number one, we still feel that the $12 and change market rent on the subject based on its location and condition, et cetera, is a little bit high. The second is the common 7% non-recovered expense argument. And then the third is the capitalization rate on the residential unit. So starting on page 14, we have a list of 23 comparisons, and I empathize with Mr. Ducharme. It's very difficult to find good comparisons for this type of property. Oftentimes, like the subject, they'll be owner occupied. It's hard to find great rental comparisons, but what you can do is if you look at enough, you can get a sense of the ranges. And I think when we look at the ranges here, most of the properties, like Mr. Ducharme had mentioned, are considered superior in location. But we have a few that I think I'd like to hone in on. Number 6, which is on Cumberland. Number 8, which is on Main Street. And number 20, which is on Isabel Street. The Cumberland property leases on a month-to-month basis for $10 a square foot for 900 square feet. It's a little bit newer and effective age as well. The property on Main Street, I think, is a fairly good comparison, and it's on a month-to-month basis at $4.41 a square foot. And Isabel is now it's a paint store. The rent is $3.87 a square foot. Mind you, the tenant had done work to the space after the fact, so arguably that is on the lower end of the range. But when we look at the overall range, Mr. Chairman, which I show here at the bottom, averaging about $10.50 a square foot, recognizing that the vast majority of these comparisons are superior, and honing in on some which might be considered similar advantage of location, I think that we would find that $12 a square foot is still on the excessive side. What we have applied is $10 a square foot. While we disagree that the basement has much value, we didn't know that the city had not included that at the time. And we applied a nominal rent of $1 a square foot. So the point, Mr. Chairman, is that the overall rent, when we base it on the main floor area in the way that the city has, would equate to $10.90 a square foot. We feel that's, although it's not much of a difference, it is a better indication of the market rent potential for this location and type of premise. The non-recovered expenses, we haven't submitted the whole study this time because I know that panel members have all heard this argument at length, but we feel that it's an appropriate deduction for any type of commercial property in a fee simple valuation. We ask the board to consider the 7%, and especially because the capitalization rate, now this is where I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I thought the city had a higher cap rate and we accepted it. In fact, the city's cap rate is quite a bit lower. It's at the higher end of our range of cap rates, and I'm going to save my presentation on the cap rates for now as well, just to say that we agree with the cap rate, but we would typically come to that conclusion with the application of the 7% non-recovered. So it's kind of a part and parcel. You know, we asked that if we're accepting the cap rate at that lower rate of 8.35%, I think it was, that we also apply the 7% non-recovered. And then lastly, the residential unit. It's accessed through the front of the store or from the rear. So typically this is going to be occupied by the owner themselves, which is the case here. You know, it's really difficult to determine anything on the market rent. So we're accepting the market rent and the expenses we think are appropriate for this type of unit, but we just don't think it is appropriate to apply. I thought it was lower, but even 5.45% is the cap rate. The range that we saw from the broker study and is corroborated by the Altus cap rate study is easily 5 to 6% at minimum. And these are for actual apartments with amenities and parking, etc. You know, when you have a unit like this, I think it would be safe to argue that your risk would be higher in attaining some sort of rent for this unit. And so we've applied 6.5%. Those are the three differences, Mr. Chairman. So I would like to ask a correction to my value on the commercial side. If we apply the city's cap rate rather than what I thought was the city's cap rate, our CC60 value is actually 97,000. There's no change to our conclusion on the multi-res side at 61,000, or sorry, CC10 side at 61,000. So the revised value, Mr. Chairman, that we asked the panel to consider is 158,000 total. And that completes our presentation.
So class code 60 is revised to 97. You're leaving class code 10 at 61.
That's correct.
Darren, any questions?
No questions.
Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Harvey?
No questions, thank you.
Well, I have a question. Let me just get to it. So Rod, on page, let me get to the page, your page 20, you've included the 2022 assessment.
Yes.
At 114 and 82,000 for the residential. Correct?
That's correct. We had not represented the property at that time.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, the property was just purchased by our client in 2022.
Which is post reference anyway.
Yeah, so I'm not, I blacked out that price.
Okay, I have another question. On page, your income workup on page 17 is showing a building age retail 1958 and class code 20, but it's a class code 10 appeal, correct?
Yeah, that's an error, Mr. Chairman. That's class code 10. It's just it's only one unit at the back. It's a 1-bedroom unit.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. And an age of 1958, correct?
Yeah, I think that's a variant age because we had well, wait a minute. The retail portion is at 1942. The effective age of the apartment was 1965. But probably has sort of a variant there.
Because the assessor had an age of the original age 1912 and then a variant age of 1965.
Yeah, they show their effective age spanning from 12 to 65. For some reason, I thought they had a higher effective age on the commercial. I mean, it's fair to poor would be a good description, but you know, is the effective age 1912? I don't know.
Because it's somewhat confusing when I look at your brief versus the assessor's brief, and
For the residential was added on, I believe we have a 2006 permit for that might be.
so that was added on in 2006.
Yeah,
Was it really? I thought it was 1965.
maybe it was a rental in 2006.
Yeah, that might be.
Sorry. I know there was we have a permit 2006.
So
Really, any more information? What I have here, sorry.
So has either party inspected this property, or?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I mean, if that was the 2006 edition at the back, the unit, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, might have been some sort of interior renovation. I don't have detail on it. Sorry.
Okay, fair enough. That was
Yeah,
my own.
there's pictures, Mr. Chairman, in the brief of both the commercial and the residential portion.
Yeah, I was just concerned with the age you had on your income workup versus the assessor's age, and okay, that concludes my question. And you have rebuttal on this, Rod?
Yeah, it actually is very quick, Mr. Chairman. It's just, again, showing the types of comparisons for the apartment unit and then the commercial. And one of the main points that we kind of already established in the questioning is that two of the city's comparisons are 7-Elevens, which are known to have ample parking, good locations. And then the other two are just, I believe, to be superior and also have, number 4 has parking. So there's just pictures of those, that's all it is. I don't think I need to go through that. It's just for the board's reference.
And just make sure the panel members have it's a 5-page rebuttal with the pictures.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and I've got them. Okay, Rod, that concludes your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much.
And the next one on the docket is 561 Sargent Avenue, which is withdrawn. Correct, Mr. Slaughter?
Correct.
The next item is 1250 Pembina Highway. Let me turn to it. Any preliminary issues on this one? Either party?
Not from my end, no.
Nope, thank you.
Okay, Darren, you can commence with your presentation for 1250 Pembina.
Thank you. The file number is 23-308. The roll number is 030-900-25000. The address 1250 Pembina Highway. For the roll year 2024, with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value 536 for the retail stream, 491,000 for the residential stream, giving a total of $1,027,000. The parcel use is CMU, commercial multi-use. It's a 2-story building, it's zoned C2. And we have a leasable area in retail of 2,570 square feet. Recommendation is to decrease the 2024 assessed value from $1,027,000 to $940,000. After further review, We have decreased the total leasable area from 2,570 square feet to 2,400 square feet for the retail stream. And for the apartment stream, we have agreed to reduce the apartment stream rent from 36,817 to the actuals, which is $32,765.
Okay, so your class code 10 now becomes,
Class code 10 now becomes $437,000 rounded. And class code 60 now becomes 437,000
rounded.
rounded, yeah.
So just so class code 10 now becomes 437.
Yes, sorry, class code 60 is 503,000 rounded.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I said that one.
Okay, Rod, were you aware of the recommendation?
No, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll continue though, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Darren, you can continue on with your presentation.
Thank you. On page 2, the top photo, we have an area view of the subject property at 1250 Pembina. We can see it's located in the middle of a couple of other properties along that strip there. The bottom photo, we have a Google Street View of the subject property approaching it on Pembina Highway. There's 2 commercial tenants on the bottom and the apartment units are on the second floor. The top photo on page 3, another Google Street View photo passing the subject property on Pembina. And the bottom of page 3 is a photo showing the back of the subject property. Page 4 is a sales history of the subject property, a most recent sale of $727,000 in August 6th of 2019. The return sale questionnaire that we did state that this was an arm's length open market transaction. Page 5 is the income stream for the apartment. We have 2 bachelor suites and 2 one-bedroom suites. We've applied a monthly rent of $767.02, giving a potential gross income of $36,817. Now we have recommended to go to actuals, which is $32,765. We've applied the vacancy loss remains the same at 4.2. Expenses remain the same at 47.08. The net operating income has changed from 18,665 to 16,611. The cap rate is 3.80, giving a capitalized value change from 491,184 to 437,131, which is $437,000 rounded for the apartment stream. Page 6 are the rent comparables for the apartment stream. These comparables are all in the same market region as the subject region 8. Page 7 is the income stream for the retail. Premise ID 1069 remains at 1,200 square feet. We've applied a rent of $16.68, giving a potential rent of $20,016. We changed the premise ID area for 1070 from 1,370 square feet to 1,200 square feet. The rent has changed from $16.53 to $16.68. And again, a potential rent of $20,016. So the total area has changed from 2,570 to 2,400 square feet. And the potential rent has changed from 42,662 to $40,032. Vacancy loss remains the same at 6%. Expenses the same at 3%. Shortfall remains the same at $7 per square foot. The net operating income has changed from 37,820 to 35,493. The cap rate remains the same at 7.05, giving a capitalized value of $503,449, or a new estimated value rounded of $503,000. Page 8 are the rent comparables for the commercial stream. Comparables 1, 188-A, number 3, 539 St. Mary's Road, and number 5, 390 Osborne Street are all CMUs, same as the subject. Comparable 1, 188-A, and comparable 5 at 390 Osborne have a similar building layout as the subject, in the sense they are two-story buildings with retail on the main floor, apartment units on the second floor. Comparable to 1349 Pembina is in close proximity to the subject at 1250 Pembina. This tenant operates the same type of business as one of the subject tenants. Comparable 4, 2677 Pembina, also in close proximity to the subject on the same street. And the tenant operates the same type of business as one of the subject tenants. On page 9 is the income value summary, which was discussed in detail previously. Page 10, our capitalization rate chart. The cap rate applied is 7.05%, which we believe is within or above the 80th percentile for all reports and is fair. Page 11 are the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Page 12 through 18 are the subject property 2020 income and expense mailers that were submitted. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Rod, any questions?
No, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll save my comments or differences for the presentation and the rebuttal. That'll be fine.
Okay. Michelle, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And Harvey, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Sharma, I guess my only question is so you have the residential cap rate at 3.8. Is that correct? Have I got that right?
Oh, 3.8, yes.
And I'm looking at the chart multifamily, and it seems to be in accordance with the city's evidence on cap values to be pretty low. Would you agree?
I agree it is low.
And you know why it's 1% lower than the 4.8, which seems to be the lowest cap rate or the 20 percentile? Would this property be better in the top 1% of apartment properties in the city of Winnipeg?
I wouldn't say that's the case. It's a model driven cap rate tax, but I wouldn't say it's better than
Okay.
The top rated ones. No.
Okay, so based on that, would you agree that probably it deserves a higher cap rate?
I would say that could be fair, yes.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren, has this property been renovated? If I look at page 3 of your brief, it looks like new windows and new stucco and.
Yeah, the permit, I don't think we had anything of, in terms of the permits, anything of recent value. No, there's nothing in terms of, as far as renovations going, we have no records of any permits being pulled, but it does appear to be newer, yes. it does seem to have, well, I mean, I'm just getting information from, there was an MLS listing, newer roof, 3 years old, windows and suites. Long-term tenants, those were just some of the notes, but there was no value attributed to these renovations that we know of, no permits pulled.
So it hasn't been inspected lately?
No, we have no records of any recent inspections, no.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. So,
Mr. Chair, could I ask one following question?
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Ducharme, just to confirm that listing information, that was for the 2019 listing?
Correct, 2019 listing, yes.
Yeah, that included the windows had been done, the roof had been done.
Yeah, the notes I have, yeah, newer roof, windows in the suites were redone. Yeah.
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Rod, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I had been out to the property and met with the owner actually a few weeks ago. And the reason I asked that question, Mr. Ducharme, and to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, is yes, there had been work done by the new owner since he purchased the property in 2019. But what he described to me as being about 40,000 total was reserved for the multi-res units on the second floor. And it had more to do with new millwork and vinyl flooring, I believe. He didn't mention anything about windows, so I just wanted to make sure that, and in fact, that's correct. So now we know that a lot of the work had been done before the owner had purchased the property. As Mr. Ducharme had mentioned, the owner bought the property arm's length for $727,000 mid-2019. The property was in good condition. It had one vacant unit on the second floor at the time. Everything else was occupied. And while we don't put all weight on one sale doesn't make a market, we always test it. We find that our analysis basically corroborates the conclusions of the vendor purchaser. So we have photos again on page 6, overhead photo on page 7. Brief description again, Mr. Ducharme had gone through it, but there's 2 units on the main floor, commercial units, a takeout calzone restaurant, and at the time a massage tenant. There are 2 access points by staircase on either side that lead to the second floor that has one common hallway and units on the front and the back, 2 units on each side. The 2 in the front are 1-bedroom units, the 2 in the back are bachelor suites. While the owner had tenants in place at the time of sale, he felt that they could use some refreshing, and that's what he has done since the purchase of the property. Again, he estimated he's maybe spent $40,000 or so. There's photos on page 8 of the hallway and the access point in one of the suites. The effective age remains 1958. There are 6 parking stalls in the rear, which is basically enough for 1 for each residential tenant and 1 for each of the 2 commercial units. And this is a concern for the commercial units because the only access for customers is to park on the street, which is, as I can attest when I went to inspect the property, not as easy as it may sound. So we've done again, we look at some of the sales that have been talked about in previous hearings, but we're not putting much weight on the direct comparison approach. So we turn to the income approach on page 13. And one of the contentions is with the market rents applied. So we start by looking at the actual rents in place. And Mr. Chairman, if I could ask the panel to turn to page 24. This is the 2019 mailer that was submitted. We can see that on the left-hand column of page 24, the rents shown are gross, there's no recoveries. The expenses are shown in the middle column. And the net operating income at that time is shown at $41,712. Then on page 26, we can see the rents attained for the units upstairs and for the commercial units. And we can see that those are gross in nature. And then the following pages have on page 27, I believe it is, we have the 2020 mailer. And while the owner did not check all of the boxes on the rents on the sales verification form, they do consistently show that there are no recoveries. This was a question I had of the owner. I said, why is it that you didn't check the boxes in 2020 like in 2019? He said, oh, you know, it was a mistake, but he doesn't recover anything. These are gross. So I've established that, and that his income and expense form is completely, is correctly completed. So we look at the actual rents, which are $20.07 a square foot for the massage works and $21.80 a square foot for the Mr. Calzone. And we deduct the appropriate expenses that are shown as not being recovered, which equate to $5.50 a square foot from what would actually be a semi-gross rent. And that results in the rent shown on page 13 as nets, which are $14.57 a square foot for massage works and $16.30 for Mr. Calzone. So that's the net rents attained. And those are fairly recent to the reference here, and we feel that they're fairly good indications. But again, we need to test the market. So we look at the bottom of page 13, 11 comparisons on Pembina Highway. The first 4 are located very nearby at 1619 Pembina. This is a newer property constructed in 75 with effective age going up to 2012. And the rents in that property range from $12.50 to $16.08 a square foot. We then look to a property in the 1700s block of Pembina Highway. This is a newer property built in 1995 for effective age 1995. And the rents in that property range from a low of $9 a square foot to a high of $16.42. And then lastly, again in the 1600 block, effective age 1980, 3 units with recent rents ranging from $12 to $13.11 square foot. So the average of these Pembina Highway rent comparisons is $13.50 a square foot. So we feel that the actual rents in place, Mr. Chairman, are supported by market, and we treat those as being the market rent potential. Again, those actual net rents average between the two, $15.45 a square foot. No contention with any of the other rates applied for the vacancy or shortfall, but we do have a concern again about the non-recovered expenses. Now, the city has applied a capitalization rate of 7.05% to the commercial portion, and we feel that is appropriate. I have in evidence, Mr. Chairman, our capitalization rate study for retail properties. I know that the board has heard us present this evidence many times, so maybe what I'll do is just quickly summarize my conclusion on the city's application of a 7.05 cap rate. And that is, when we look at our presentation, and if the board wishes to turn to the relevant pages, page 24 shows our comparisons that we look to. And they range from 6% to 7.4%. The best comparisons, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest are numbers 5 and 8, which are 6.75 and 7%. So we feel that 7.05%.
Are you on the rebuttal?
No, this is, sorry, and I'm not even asking the board to turn to this unless they wish to. This is the capitalization rate study for retail properties.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm just mentioning in conclusion, why we feel 7.05% is appropriate, but this is the large but. We always apply 7% non-recovered expenses in our determination of market capitalization rates. So when I say 6.75 and 7% is good comparisons, which are actually newer properties, by the way, 1975 and 1980. So I think we should be a bit higher. When I say that, that is with the application of 7%. If we were not applying 7% and rather applying the 3% non-recovered that the city applies, the effect on our cap rate conclusions would be an increase of about 30 basis points. So what we often say in conclusion, we ask the board to either apply the 7% non-recovered expenses, or we would ask that the cap rate be increased by at least 25 basis points. I'm going to hope that the panel prefers the former, and that would be consistent with our presentation.
It's all coming back to me, Rod.
Yeah, it's been a while. I know you've been saying it. It's been a while. Mind you, we spent the summer at the municipal board arguing this, so that'll be interesting. So that concludes our commercial portion, Mr. Chairman, and you can see why we're a little bit different than what the city had done. Because of our market rent being lower based on actuals supported by market and the application of the 7% non-recovered. The only other concern to the city's revised value, because they have now used the actual rents for the multi-res units. The only other concern is the capitalization rate. and we agree. I didn't bother asking this in questioning, but it's a very good question asked by the panel. How does the city get to 3.8% when all of the evidence, at least from the market, is suggesting 5 to 6%? And even when we establish what we think is an appropriate cap rate, I think we then need to look at the site-specific factors, right? When we look at cap rates that are derived on actual apartments, we're talking about properties that typically have some degree of parking included, will have typically some degree of amenities, are not located right above a calzone restaurant for any impact that may have on leasability. So we feel that we would definitely be at the higher end of the range, if not higher. And we have applied 6%, which is actually still in keeping with the ranges stated by the brokers, corroborated by Altus's presentation, which I won't go into detail on, but it basically says that we agree with the brokers based on our comparisons. So 6% should be the capitalization rate on the multi-residential. And yes, I am factoring in that conclusion that there's been a little bit of work done to the units since the purchaser bought them, but not significant. So on page 16, Mr. Chairman, the conclusion of the two income stream valuations is that the commercial CC60 would be $445,000. And the CC20 would be $311,000, and that comes to a total of $756,000. And while we have stated that we don't put all our weight on the one sale, it is a very important sale to look at in that it is arm's length. It's been tested. I have interviewed the purchaser about the transaction, and when I factor the $727,000 they paid, with a market value contribution from the work he's done to the units, notwithstanding the fact that he had difficulty in leasing because at the reference date we're in the pandemic, I think $756,000 is a fair value as of April 21. That concludes our direct presentation, Mr. Chairman. I went through the income and expense forms. Only other thing I would mention is that I have, again, a very brief rebuttal that basically shows pictures of the city's comparisons and why we feel that they would definitely be showing a higher range than we think is appropriate.
Okay, first of all, Darren, do you have any questions of his presentation?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Harvey, have you got any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Michelle, have you got any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. So Rod, you can direct us to your rebuttal. Just let me see if we have it. I gotta refresh it. So Rod, it's a 6-page document.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Everybody, all the panel members have it?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rod.
Thanks. So the first 2 pages or 3 pages show the multi-res properties that the city had cited as comparisons on the market rents. It's kind of a moot point now, Mr. Chairman, because I think we're both in agreement with the market rent on the apartments, but for the board's reference, those are the comparisons. But the ones that I think are more important are starting on page 5, and these are the commercial units. The first one, 180 Taché, I think it was mentioned earlier this morning. That was not a bad comparison. I wouldn't have too much of a problem with that on its own. The second one is at 1349 Pembina. The concern I have here is when you're looking at the market rent potential for retail locations, especially takeout restaurants, parking is a consideration. And I mentioned that the subject doesn't really have any parking outside of for the staff or owner, one of them for each of the commercial units. So this comparison on Pembina is a chicken delight. It actually has a drive-through. It has parking in front and back. I think we're talking about a different type of property here that would command a higher rent. The next comparison is 539 St. Mary's. I have nothing to say about this comparison, except that I felt that the rent seemed high, but I always investigate into, is there any reason why I believe that? Do I have reason to believe it is owner occupied, semi-gross, gross rent, etc.? I don't have any information on this property, so I have nothing to say except that's what it looks like. And then the last two are similar concerns that I brought up. 2677 Pembina is three commercial tenants. The unit that is being referred to as the Pizza. It has ample parking. Very different type of property. And then the last one is mentioned earlier today, 390 Osborne. I think the unit in question is an ice cream restaurant on the main floor. I've been there with my wife and daughter a few times, and there is ample parking at the back for customers. It also is a much newer property. It was built in 2017. So for the most part, Mr. Chairman, I do have concern about the majority of the comparisons that the city has, and I think our comparisons are a better indicator, as well as the actual rents in place.
Thank
That is
you.
all.
Darren, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Michelle,
No questions. Thank you.
Harvey,
No questions, thank you.
and I have no questions. So that concludes that property. And the last property on the docket is 825 Henderson Highway. Any preliminary issues, either party?
Not for me.
Nope, thank you.
Okay, Darren, you can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you. File number 23-259. The roll number is 020-202-46000. The address is 825 Henderson Highway. For the roll year 2024, with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $157,000 for the residential, $260,000 for the retail, giving a total of $417,000. Parcel use is CMCMU, zoning is C2, and we have a leasable area of 1,160 square feet. Recommendation is to decrease the 2024 assessed value from $417,000 to $360,000. After further review, we reduced the total leasable area for the retail stream from 1,160 square feet to 1,075 square feet. We increased the vacancy on the retail stream from 6% to 11%. And we reduced the bedroom count for the apartment stream from 3 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms, which resulted in a decrease in rent for the apartment stream.
So the revised split for class code 60 is
Revised, we got for the apartment stream 139,000. And for the retail stream, we now have 224,000.
224.
Yes.
And what's the revised NOI on the retail?
The revised NOI for the retail is now, it has changed from 17,283 to 14,870.
870?
Yes.
And the revised NOI on the class code 10?
The revised NOI, class code 10, is now from 5,902 to 5,230.
And the cap rate remains the same on the apartment?
Yes.
Okay, Rod, were you aware of the recommendation? I guess not till now.
No, and sorry, Darren, what was the revised CC 10 or 20 value? 117, you said?
139. 139,000 rounded.
Okay. Boy, I have a conundrum, because I would, Mr. Ducharme is a little lower actually than our commercial value. But I just can't accept the cap rate. On the residential, I mean. So
So your concern is the cap rate on residential.
yeah. I mean, I think the overall value is very fair, and of course, the owner would appreciate the deduction being higher on the commercial side. It goes against all my instincts to say that I think we need to still suggest that the cap rate is too low on the residential portion.
Okay, well, let's proceed with your presentation then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Page 2, the top photo shows an area view of the subject property. And the bottom is a Google Street View approaching the subject property at 825 Henderson. The top photo, another Google Street View going past the subject property. And the bottom is an aerial photo of the subject property. For the income stream apartment, we've changed the 3-bedroom suite to a 2-bedroom suite as per what was reported in the mailer, which changes the monthly rent from $952.76 to $839.48. This changes the potential gross income from $11,433 to $10,074. Vacancy loss remains at 3.2, expenses at 46.67. The cap rate remains the same at 3.75. The capitalized value has changed to 139,467, or 139,000 rounded for the retail stream, or sorry, for the apartment stream. On page 5 are the rent comparables for the apartment stream. All are located in the same region as the subject, region 2. Page 6, we have our workup for the retail stream. PID 490 has a leasable area of 375. At 1739 gives a potential rent of $6,521. Premise ID 491. We have changed the area from 785 square feet to 700 square feet. Changes the rent to $16.66 per square foot. And this has changed the potential rent of that unit from $12,968 to $11,662. So the total area has changed from 1,160 square feet to 1,075 square feet. The vacancy loss remains the same, or vacancy remains same at 6%, expenses the same, 3%, shortfall is $7 per square foot. The net operating income has changed from $17,283 to $14,870, giving the cap rate has remained the same at 6.65. The capitalized value changes from $259,895 to $223,607, or $224,000 rounded. On page 7 are the rent comparables. All the comparables are the same parcel code, CMCMU as the subject, and zoned same as the subject. Page 8, the income value summary, which was discussed in detail for the 2 streams previously. Page 9 is the capitalization rate chart. We have applied a cap rate 6.65 for the retail stream, which we believe to be fair. And for the apartment stream, we applied a cap rate of 3.75. 3.75%. Page 10, we have the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And page 11 through 17 are the subject property 2020 income and expense mailers that were submitted. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Rod, any questions?
No questions, thanks.
And Michelle, any questions?
I guess it would still be similar to the other one. What makes this property so superior to 3.75 cap rate for the residential?
Yeah, it's again a model driven cap rates, in terms of specifics. I wouldn't know.
Thank you. No other questions.
And Harvey, any questions?
No further questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. So Rod, you can start with your presentation.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. There's a photo of the property on page 6. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to coordinate with the owner for an inspection. I did get a chance to interview him on a phone call. I swear this is a place that I worked when I was 19 in the summer, going to university, cleaning carpets, but I can't be certain. In any event, the property at the outer side, it seems to fit the description that the owner said. It's quite basic. There's 2 main tenants, very small commercial units on the main floor. One has been vacant for some time. The other had a tenant that was month to month. And then the upper apartment units, I think, were vacant at the time. And he hopes to be leasing them soon. So basically, we had no concern with anything that the city had done based on our analysis, except the cap rates. But what I'll suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that we had simply accepted the rents on the retail. You know, I would not argue with the city's value of $224,000 overall, regardless of the cap rate on the commercial side. And the residential side, we wouldn't necessarily argue with the city's conclusions either, but 3.75% is just not appropriate. It's just wrong. And that's why I would like to be able to say that we agree to the overall value, but I can't. So I think the quickest thing, the easiest answer, Mr. Chairman, is that based on what we've talked about this morning and the evidence that we have from our cap rate study and the brokers, et cetera, nothing short of 6% should be applied to these type of residential units. And so maybe the easiest thing to do, Mr. Chairman, is just agree to everything that Mr. Ducharme had done, except that we ask that the multi-residential cap rate be 6%. And what that would do, Mr. Chairman, it would have a value of $224,000 on the commercial and $87,000 on the CC 10 or 20. And that would bring the value to slightly lower than my value. It would be $311,000 total. So I present that as an alternative value, and I ask the board to consider that.
So your original value for CC10 was 98,500.
I believe that's correct. Yes, and that was the application of the 6%. But as I said, we had just agreed to the city's rent. So I would be just as happy on the CC10 at 98,000.
So Darren, do you have any questions or comments?
I do not have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Michelle, any questions, comments?
No, none. Thank you.
Harvey, any questions or comments?
No, I don't.
And I have no questions or comments. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We've heard all the items scheduled this morning, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
It was amazing. Those so small properties, and they take the most time.
Yeah, but you still take time. That's the absolute time.